Picture a convoy of trucks piled high with sacks of flour and boxes of canned food, inching over a dusty road toward a closed border. Thousands of hungry, desperate people crowd the path, clutching children and battered bags, eyes fixed on the aid convoy like it's the last hope for survival. Suddenly, chaos erupts. The crowd surges. Some trucks are stopped. Aid is intercepted. In the midst, nobody really knows where the food will end up, or if it will reach those who need it most. Now imagine this isn't the scene from a war movie. This is Gaza, right now. And behind these dramatic headlines lies a web of broken promises, failed policies, and a question that shakes our sense of justice. Why is it, in 2024, with all of our technology and global wealth, that we can't get food to the world's most vulnerable people? Today we're diving deep into the Gaza aid crisis, the hidden dynamics, the dangerous roadblocks, the controversial players, and the economic and political forces threatening the lives of millions. Stay with us as we uncover what almost nobody is telling you about aid, starvation, and the failures of the international system. Because if we don't understand the real reasons aid isn't getting through, we can't change the outcome, or our own role in this global emergency. Let's rewind for a crash course. Gaza, a 365 square kilometer strip of land wedged along the Mediterranean, bordered by Israel and Egypt. For years, this sliver has been at the center of one of the world's most intractable conflicts. But in 2024, something even more urgent is happening. The population, 2 million strong, is on the precipice of famine. Aid has always played a crucial role in Gaza, with the United Nations and various NGOs supplying everything from food to medicine. But what used to be a lifeline is now fraying. According to the UN, over 1 million people in Gaza are suffering from catastrophic hunger, forced starvation, to use their words. Picture families going days without a meal, children fainting in the rubble, and parents risking their lives in stampedes for a single loaf of bread. How did it get this bad? It's the result of months of siege, tight border controls, ongoing conflict, and a devastated local economy. Factories that once made bread and biscuits have been bombed or abandoned. Electricity is sporadic. The little food that comes in often gets stuck at the border or never reaches those in greatest need. But the story isn't just about supply. It's about what happens after the food gets in, if it gets in at all. United Nations convoys crawl along dangerous routes, sometimes facing gunfire, and when the trucks finally appear, desperate crowds descend. According to the World Food Program, there are incidents of civilians overwhelming the trucks, intercepting aid before it can be distributed in an orderly way. In one shocking case, 77 trucks carrying flour were actually stopped and offloaded by the crowd, the chaos making it impossible to tell who gets what. What about the people meant to keep order? With local authorities and police infrastructure shattered, there's a complete breakdown of orderly society. It's survival of the hungriest. To quote one expert from the WFP, "You can't talk about distribution protocols when people haven't eaten for days. All the rules go out the window." That loss of order ripples back through the system. The UN, recognized as the gold standard in humanitarian relief, is stymied. They're struggling to navigate logistical nightmares, long delays at checkpoints, and outright insecurity along the routes. Bureaucratic delays add another layer of frustration. The UN's own reports warn of a political quagmire where every decision is hostage to conflicting interests, in the region and on the world stage. But just when you think the story couldn't get more complicated, a new actor storms onto the scene, the GHF, or Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. This group claims to be the answer to the aid impasse. The GHF organizes its own supply routes, using paramilitary escorts and maintaining strict control, sometimes at gunpoint. They distribute food boxes, insisting that their methods are faster and more reliable than the UN's. But their rise has unleashed a storm of controversy. The GHF is accused by some of prioritizing political gain over humanitarian need. Their critics allege that aid is sometimes handed out in exchange for allegiance, and that the group operates with a military-like grip. Worse, there are dark rumors, denied by the group, of GHF forces firing shots to maintain order at distribution sites. The United Nations, fiercely independent, refuses to cooperate with the GHF, arguing that aid should never be militarized or politicized. That standoff means that two parallel aid systems now operate in Gaza, sometimes at cross purposes, sometimes undermining each other entirely. One UN official put it bluntly, "We're supposed to be saving lives, but now we're fighting each other for the right to save them." You might ask, does any of this actually help the people on the ground? Or are all these layers of politics, bureaucracy, and military operations just making it harder to do what matters: get food into the hands of starving families? One international observer, who has watched the scene for years, summed it up. The real tragedy isn't just the lack of food, it's the loss of trust. People don't know who to turn to. Aid convoys become a trigger for chaos, and every delay, every failure, pushes the society closer to collapse. At the heart of all this is a burning question. Is the international aid system fundamentally broken? If so, can it be fixed? Or does the Gaza crisis signal the death knell for humanitarian action as we know it? The numbers are staggering, but the pain is personal. You can count 77 aid trucks stopped by mobs, but can you count the mothers who leave empty-handed, or the children who never made it to the trucks at all? The images coming out of Gaza shock the conscience. Yet somehow, the world still argues over protocols, blaming the other side as people starve. So, what needs to happen? The research is clear. The situation in Gaza demands more than just aid. It demands accountability. The current policies aren't simply failing, they are measured in human lives. Half measures are no longer enough, but decisive action remains elusive in a region paralyzed by politics. And as the crisis drags on, a specter emerges. What if the very act of delivering aid, of doing good, is being weaponized? What if the aid industry, supposed to be the last hope, is actually part of the problem? Are the lives of Gazans hostage not just to armed conflict, but to a global system too broken to save them? In the next segment, we'll dig into those uncomfortable truths. What are the hidden economics and political incentives driving this chaos? Who benefits from the aid impasse, and what would it actually take to cut through the red tape? Stick with us, because the answer may be stranger and more alarming than you ever imagined. As we move forward from the chaos gripping Gaza's aid corridors, the stakes only get higher. The images of desperate crowds rushing aid trucks, grain spilled on the streets, and humanitarian convoys turned back at checkpoints are not just grim snapshots, they are warnings of a future that could be even darker if decisive action isn't taken. But what does this future look like? Is salvation on the horizon, or are we heading toward an even deeper abyss? Let's imagine a few scenarios, each with its own risks, opportunities, and profound consequences for the people of Gaza and the world watching. In the best-case scenario, there's a radical shift. International outrage boils over, finally pushing major players to set aside political calculations, enforce ceasefires, and guarantee secure, unhindered passage for humanitarian convoys. New accountability systems, maybe powered by advances in satellite monitoring and digital tracking, begin exposing corruption and inefficiency, making it nearly impossible for any actor to divert or weaponize aid. This leads to a cascade: fewer blockades, a trickle of desperately needed goods arriving safely, and, crucially, starving families finally eating. Hope becomes tangible. But even this optimistic vision wouldn't materialize overnight. As one humanitarian observer put it, to fix Gaza's aid system, you don't just need more trucks, you need a new way of thinking, one that treats human life as sacred, beyond borders or banners. A much darker scenario is just as plausible, some would say, even likely. If political infighting continues, if controversial private actors keep taking matters into their own hands, and if the international system remains fragmented, then the crisis will deepen. More aid will be lost, intercepted, or become a tool for influence, whether by governments, militias, or new players on the ground. For Gazans, this means more hunger, more chaos, and a sense that the world has abandoned them. One UN official, speaking bluntly to the press, remarked, "We are standing at the edge of a man-made famine. The difference between action and inaction is counted in thousands of lives." But that is not the whole story. There are unexpected variables that could change the trajectory. Technology could be a game changer. Imagine real-time apps that let donors and recipients track shipments, or drone-based delivery bypassing danger zones. Or, what if grassroots organizers inside Gaza build underground aid routes, relying on hyper-local networks to distribute food and medicine more efficiently than any outside group? Yet every opportunity carries its own risks. More technology could also mean more surveillance and hacking. Unofficial routes might be co-opted by powerful factions, replicating the same dangers in new forms. And above it all hovers the politics. Every bag of rice, every bottle of medicine, is still a bargaining chip in a game most Gazans never signed up to play. So, what is really driving this relentless chaos? Are there hidden interests, economic, political, even criminal, keeping the wheels spinning? The answer, according to several experts, is sobering. Beneath the surface, the aid chaos is not just a product of war and bureaucracy, but of a system where leverage matters more than need. For some actors, controlling aid flows means gaining political legitimacy, lucrative contracts, or raw power, while for others, blocking aid becomes a weapon. And for the truly ruthless, even humanitarian disaster is a business opportunity, one that thrives on the desperation of others. This is the ugly truth the headlines seldom show, and yet it's also the knowledge that must inform any real solution. Knowing it forces us to rethink our assumptions about how humanitarian help works and who truly benefits when the system breaks down. So, what does all this mean for us, watching from afar? What can we, as ordinary viewers, do with these uncomfortable revelations? First, it's a reminder that humanitarian crises are never just about charity. They are also about politics, economics, and power. The stories we see on the news are the visible tip of a much deeper iceberg. As a viewer, this means cultivating a healthy skepticism about official narratives. Don't simply accept statements from governments, agencies, or private actors at face value. Second, it means recognizing the enormous impact of public pressure. History shows that when ordinary people band together, demanding transparency, accountability, and action from their leaders, policy can shift. The outrage that finally prompts open borders or investigation into aid mismanagement often starts with viral videos and collective voices. Think about the moments in history when grassroots mobilization broke through political inertia. These stories remind us that the impossible is sometimes closer than we think. Third, support matters. While big agencies have a mixed track record, there are grassroots and local organizations, often operating below the radar, that deliver help more efficiently, more bravely, and with less overhead. Researching these groups, supporting them directly, or amplifying their stories can make a real difference, even if only for a handful of families in the line of fire. And finally, the lesson is about not looking away. The Gaza aid crisis exposes the world's fault lines, but it also reveals our own capacity for empathy, outrage, and solidarity. Every time we choose to understand, to question, and to act, we help prevent suffering from becoming just another background noise. To sum up, are hidden interests fueling the chaos in Gaza's aid crisis? Absolutely. Political ambition, economic gain, and even survival instincts are all tangled up in the delivery, or denial, of help. This reality makes the challenge daunting, but it also clarifies what it would really take to break the deadlock: radical transparency, international accountability, and a new willingness from both global leaders and regular people to see humanitarian access not as a bargaining chip, but as an inviolable right. There's a secret fact here that almost never makes the headlines. Sometimes the chaos in aid isn't a bug, it's a feature. For some actors, disorder means opportunity. Exposing this reality is the first step toward change. So what now? The Gaza crisis is a test of the world's conscience and resolve. As viewers, we're not powerless bystanders. We have a voice, a vote, a way to demand that aid not be used as a weapon or a business opportunity, but as a lifeline. Next time you see a headline about humanitarian convoys or closed crossings, pause and ask, who stands to gain from this chaos? If you're moved, share this video. Start a conversation, amplify unheard voices, demand accountability from those in power. The more we know, the harder it becomes for anyone, government, militia, or company, to hide behind the fog of war and bureaucracy. Thank you for watching. The power to break the deadlock in Gaza's aid crisis starts with awareness, and with you.